pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call this meeting to order. First order of business, public announcements. Details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com. Summer concerts in the park are held each Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. from June through August. The Fairfield Farmers Market is open and is held on Wednesdays from 2 to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. The market is located at the Fairfield Church of the Nazarene on 81 Main Street. The town office and all non-emergency services will be closed on Thursday, July 4th in observance of Independence Day. The MSAD 49 budget meeting will be held on July 9th at
7 p.m.
7 p.m. And the school budget validation referendum will be held on July 23rd, and polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Our second order of business are public hearings. There are no public hearings scheduled today. We will, however, receive a presentation from Affinity LED Light LLC, and it is our intent to allow questions from residents and members of the public at the conclusion of the presentation.
So if you want to go to the podium, that way they can hear you in TV land.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Steve Lieber. I am the president and founder of Affinity LED Light LLC. Our company is based out of Dover, New Hampshire. We're here tonight to discuss the street lighting conversion for the town of Fairfield. Affinity is, we have a very interesting business model. Our lights are all built in Dover, New Hampshire. And they're built by U.S. veterans in our UL-approved manufacturing site. We're pretty proud to bring employment to those who have served our country, and it's been our commitment since we started our company to start manufacturing back up in the U.S.
Could yield for just one moment. The door seems to be locked.
Sorry, I was going to go and get it, but
Never lock the fire chief out.
no, never do that.
In fact, that door shouldn't be locked at all.
Make him a little upset.
If the door is now unlocked, so that members of the public can in fact access the meeting, we
Yes, that would be a good idea.
will now resume, and you may continue your presentation.
Great, thank you. So to give you a little background on our experience, we've been selected through our street lighting business began in the state of New Hampshire. We've been selected by 38 communities across the state of New Hampshire, ranging from the seacoast, pretty much every community on the seacoast, Portsmouth, Dover, Rochester, Somersworth, Farmington, Newmarket, Newington, Newfields, Newcastle. We stretch across the state all the way over to the western part of the state with Peterborough and Keene and Claremont. Up into the northern part of the state, we've done Bethlehem, Gorham, Berlin, Conway, North Conway, a total of 38 communities. We've also received the state contract. We're actually under construction right now. The team is building all the lights for the New Hampshire Department of Transportation from Canada to Massachusetts. We will be replacing, we're under contract with the state to replace with our lights all of the highways and turnpikes lighting across the state. We work across multiple utilities, working with clients and utilities to understand what's required of both the utilities and also the municipalities to put in, to make that change to LED. In the state of Maine, we entered in the third quarter of last year when the tariff finally became clear and we could actually meet with communities like yourselves to actually give you an energy model that defined very specifically what the opportunity was, because it wasn't very clear prior to that. And when we felt comfortable with some changes that happened in the second quarter of last year, to Section 53 of the tariff, we entered with an energy model. Our first communities where we were competitively selected with bid awards were the city of Augusta, also the town of Kittery and the town of Elliott, both down in York County. Augusta actually put in complete network controls. We've been working with Bob Lebrecq and Assistant City Manager Ralph St. Pierre and City Manager to get everything completed, and we're just about done. We've completed all of the central main power lights. We're actually working on the decorative lights in the city as well. Anything that was metered and owned by the city is nearly completed, and the network is up and running and doing well. We've also been signed on by Gardner, who selected us on the basis of the bid in Augusta. And Gardner is just about complete. I think we're moving on to the city metered lights there as well, and the network is going up soon. The gateways are the last piece, and then we bring it up. We were also recently competitively selected by the city of Waterville through a bid just several weeks ago, and recently signed that contract. In fact, today we were up already delivering the fuses that are required to be able to put in on the lines into the DPW, and then we start on the GIS field audit to verify with an investment grade audit all the assets that are out there. And that part of it is that we'll actually go out and do a GIS audit of every light that you have in the town to make sure that everything matches up to the records. And we use that audit for the installation purposes, and then do a final, hand over a final GIS layer to the town for record of all the assets of what you have taken out and what you install. Our services include pretty much turnkey. We build your lights. We work with Central Maine Power on your contract for you to do your municipal acquisition of lights. The town has a net book value currently on the current assets that are out there of a little over $38,019, I think, which will be the cost of you purchasing your lights so that you can take them down and we can destroy them for you and put up new, more economic lights. So now that if you choose to go that route, which we hope you do, to spend that $38,000, as we're taking down those lights that you've just paid $38,000, the good news is we're going to save you $59,000 a year with the installation. It represents almost 90%, 88.5% of your current budget, which is about a little under $67,000 that you're spending right now. You'll be saving $59,000 of that, and that is continuous. The only thing that could change that is if your rates go up and then you save more. Actually, your payoff is faster. So if we start talking about the project cost, the lighting project itself to convert your 342 lights is a little under $114,000. It's $113,857, and that's all services included, provided by us. Again, all built in Dover by U.S. veterans. And in addition to that, we have discussed, so that's about $333 per fixture. We've also proposed to put in networked controls so that you actually will have control of your lights for a few reasons. One is, although today the benefit of being able to use consumptive billing is not on the table, the wave is moving quickly. Even in New England, already in the state of Massachusetts, there are now tariffs being developed for communities that have smart controls, network street lighting, to actually be able to save money when they're not using full power on their street lights, because you have that capability. So that wave is coming quickly. We're pretty confident that once the trend continues with networked street lighting, that of course street lighting today is, highly regulated and probably will continue to be, but at the end of the day, it's unmetered, and at some point, you will know exactly what the consumption is. You're paying today on the assumption of dark hours and the wattage that you're using, the power, because there is no way to meter street lights. They're just tapped into electrical lines, and that's why there is a tariff. But the future is that you'll actually know what your consumption is, and you'll have the ability to make changes to that by being able to brighten and dim lights on particular roadways, et cetera, depending on the circumstances and time of year. Examples of that, because that gets into a lot of complexity that I probably won't go into detail unless you ask me to. Examples of that are when there's a complete, white snowfall on the ground. The reflectivity of snow and the brightness of night sky, et cetera, actually will reduce your need to have all those lumens out there, the same that you would have in the summertime. There are also, the busier roads that may be categorized as a higher wattage or higher brightness of lights that you currently have at certain times of the day. Certainly they are busier traffic roads, but as you reach late night into the evening, into the early morning hours, having the ability to be able to look at that from the town engineering perspective to say, this is no longer busy traffic road, allows you to reclassify the amount of light that is needed on the roads. And we can certainly help you with that as you begin to go through those points. So network controls, the other big benefit is it's pretty common that communities are frustrated that when lights go out, you don't know about it unless you personally see it and report it, or somebody sees it and reports it, and there's some following up to get that done. With no ill intent, it's a very complicated issue where most communities have lights that are out sometimes for an extended period of time. Network lighting controls, of course, those lights are out there for the safety of the community. Network lighting controls will actually send up alarms that will let you know if a light is not operating properly, so it can be addressed immediately. So from a public safety perspective, that's probably the largest benefit today, is to be able to monitor your town street lighting system. So with the networked lighting, the total cost is $207,000, $207,060. What that represents, the difference, and when I talk about the $207,000, that includes the complete conversion of the town to LED lighting, which is the original 113,857 that we spoke of. Network lighting controls for all of the 342 lights, which is $55,184. And then the $38,000 for your net book value, which you would be paying to Central Maine Power to purchase the lights. If you move forward, that $207,000 divided by your annual savings of $59,000 gives you a 3.5-year payoff to pay for all of these assets. At $59,000, 10 years, which is the warranty period on the equipment, that's $590,000 in savings to the community. And over the life of the lighting, which we state as 20 years, although all of the test reports, et cetera, rate them much higher, we're saying you're putting up 20-year equipment is what the expectation is. That puts you at almost $1.2 million in savings in the community just for your street lighting, to go to more efficient, better, safer, to some extent, brighter light on the roads, but less light everywhere else. And I say that because many people, as they're learning about LED streetlights, when there's a new opportunity to put in streetlights, people ask the question of, well, I've heard that they're going to be bright and maybe annoying, and everything that we produce, first of all, we're going with 3000 K. You can see the light that's been lit over on the floor here is actually warmer than the lights in this room, because I expect that probably, like most interiors, you've got 4000 K is the color of white, which is whiter than you'll see out there. We use a 3000 K, which is the recommended color temperature by the Dark Sky Alliance, and also by the American Medical Association, who recommend a warmer light. The reason why they recommend a warmer light is it has less blue spectrum, and blue light spectrum is considered to be something that can mess with people's circadian rhythm. Although we don't spend a lot of time out on the lights, every little bit counts, and the science says a warmer street light is better for the community and the health of animals, etc., out there. What you will see changes with putting in the LED street lighting also is because the color rendering is much higher in terms of how it renders actual color. The grass is going to become green again at night. We see green grass because we know it's green, because every day we look at it. But actually under high pressure sodium, the grass is orange. But we see it as green. The color rendering of old legacy lights is very, very low, and LED lights are a much higher color rendering. So you'll see certainly a more vibrant spectrum of color, closer to more natural looking as well. Dark sky compliant, what that means is that the optics of the light, there's actually a lens on every LED light, and the optics are what controls where the light goes. Today, in many cases, you see this glowing ball of light as you drive down the street. So you know there's a street light there a mile away, and then you get up close and you see light on the street. When you're a mile away and you're driving down the street with LED lights, until you've reached the plane where you actually can see the optics as you get closer, in many cases you don't see that the lights are on because there's very few lumens are being shined across the plane, and certainly nothing above 90 degrees. So not a single lumen is above 90 degrees. So these are dark sky friendly. There is, in the original package that I sent you, there's a quote from Vic St. Pierre, who's the director of public works in the city of Claremont, who said, the stars have come back in our city because the sky glow has disappeared, because they had 1,100 streetlights in the city of Claremont, and a lot of those were the glowing balls of light that shined light everywhere. Similar to here, you're paying for the power and for the electricity to be shining lights everywhere. We're going to put the light directly on the ground for you where you need it. And the way the optics are done, it's called a type 2 lens. The optic actually throws the light 1.75 times the pole height across the street and a very wide spectrum down the street. So you'll get a much broader stream of light and not as directed as some of the existing lights that you have. You'll also see much less backlight that shines into the properties and buildings behind you. All things considered, there's certainly, we're very happy to be here to be presenting to you, but all things considered, the conversion is very good for the community, good for safety, and certainly fiscally very responsible.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's probably going to sound like a very strange question, but if you don't ask, you don't find out. With people that are, well, they have color blindness. Some people have color blindness, and is your lighting going to be geared so that they can tell the difference between the red, the green, the yellow?
I'm not so sure. I certainly don't have any expertise in that, in terms of what that does for color spectrum on those that have difficulty in recognizing color. Certainly the clarity of the street and the surfaces that it's lighting will appear to be much brighter, although you're actually shining less lumens than a bulb, a high pressure sodium bulb or a metal halide bulb, which is shining into a fixture and reflecting down off of that. But you'll have more light on the street. And I think some of the things that you'll notice is when it's raining and when it's snowing, you'll actually see a cone of raindrops and a cone of snowflakes.
Cool.
And you can actually look and you see exactly where these lights are shining. when you have that weather. It's very interesting in a snowstorm to go out on the streets, and I do these things and look at LED lights. I'm sorry I couldn't answer your question
It's
completely.
okay, I was just wondering, because I wondered how people can drive when they're colorblind and they have, the lights. I know that if they see a stop sign, obviously, that they're gonna know it's a stop sign, but I mean, when you have red, green, and yellow, I just wonder how they differentiate that.
Well,
So,
I actually used to have a gym teacher who was colorblind, and he said that he's able to see different shades of gray. He said that there's someone he knows that can see kind of like blue-ish gray.
okay,
So,
that makes sense.
I
Yes,
will
sir.
say too, and you can notice it it's for years and years, is the way that our lights are now. When you come up to, sometimes on a corner, where you're trying to turn or find a road, and there is a light across the street, 90% of the time, unless you actually know that road's there, you're gonna miss it. Whereas I'm hoping with these, you're gonna get enough of a push off that you'll actually be able to see a road and make a turn without hitting the curbing.
Or another car.
now,
Well, that's kind of some of the stuff that happens when we do the audit. So when the company comes in and does the audit, they actually take a look at what we have. We have various different kinds of lights with various different levels of wattage depending on their location. And that's part of what that audit will be doing, is addressing that. Because what we may find, there are locations where lights will be removed because we won't need them, but we also may find that we need to put an additional light. So that's part of what that audit process does, is to help address those sorts of things. Because yes, those are some of the things we've already previously discussed. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
So in the audit, we actually color code all the assets that we found on the map based on the color, what the planned takedown is. For example, if we're taking a 100-watt high-pressure sodium out, it's going to be a 40-watt light, and that is an orange dot. And we see green dots, a lot of green dots for 50 and 70 high-pressure sodium. We see orange dots, we see purple dots, we see yellow dots. And we look at this map and take a look and say, does it make sense? Sitting down with the major stakeholders in the town, traditionally, we'll have fire chief and police chief there, the town manager, and director of public works, if there is a town engineer or other interested parties, to be able to take a look and say, does this make sense? Here's the things that we see. We're seeing a road that generally is normalized with all orange dots, but there's this yellow dot that says in this road of 40-watt, planned 40-watt lights, currently 100-watt high-pressure sodium, there's a 250 that's going to go to 100, and it's at this intersection. Was this intentional, or was this over time some replacement of a fixture that may have been mistaken? And usually someone in the town says, this is an area of a common crash site area, or an area that we need to keep specially lit for because it happens to be close to a senior center, or something that just doesn't show up on the map. So we have those conversations just to make sure everybody agrees, because this is the time you get to rewrite the book a little bit, and fix, if we find those anomalies, fix them.
now with the networked streetlights, you said that when a light goes out, we would have some way of actually knowing without someone reporting it?
So there's a central management system that is basically is brought up on a computer. There's a login, and it goes to the network that basically shows, similar to the kind of maps we're going to use to do the installation. It'll show a map that says, here's what your grid looks like of street lighting, and if there are any alarms, they'll be highlighted. You can do this 24 hours a day, where Bruce could get a text at 3 o'clock in the morning that says there's a light out, or there is, just the process of coming in and once a day turning the system on and saying, are there any alarms? Is there anything that needs to be checked? We watch it carefully for the first few weeks that it's in, just to make sure everything's operating properly and there's not any sort of like rogue radios out there, because the node that goes on the light places the photocell where a traditional photocell goes on top. We're putting a wireless network communicator, and we're creating this mesh network where lights just find their paths back to gateways that are installed that are tied into the internet, so we can pick up the signal. Now, it's quite possible, as we've discussed, it depends on the geography, where there may be some lights that you don't have the ability to pick up because there's too long of a hop where they actually can't communicate with. And we'll discuss if there are any specific legs on roads, you know, in sort of like outward areas where it might be possible that we can't monitor those. And if we do see those, our recommendation would be to go to photocell. I think we had, there's a little over 2,000 lights that went on these nodes in Augusta. And I'm thinking it was about 60 near Togus Pond was an area. I think there were about 60 that it was just decided there's no way to get communication because there's no building out there that can be tied in to the city's server to get internet, an internet address. So it was decided that at the time, let's just treat those as regular photocells. And that's all dependent on what the audit and the map tells us.
So with all of that, since it's all networked together and hooked into the internet, what stops some kid from figuring out how to get into the network and messing with the streetlights?
What I can tell you is, I don't know all the security details, but our controls partner absolutely could answer that question very confidently, would say there's military grade encryption is what I do know, that it would be very, very difficult to hack in. And then I use the practical side that say never. This is my practical side, and he would probably kick me if he was standing here. The practical side would be, if somebody was going into your network to shut off your street lights, there's probably other things that they would do that could be probably much worse. We're not aware of any systems today across the United States that have been hacked into. I think that was a very big topic during the development. The first network street lighting system we put in was actually in the city of Dover, our home city. The state of New Hampshire, the tariffs in the state of New Hampshire do not allow for anything that can control the lights. Simply said, you can't put anything on there but a photocell. So the city manager was very, very determined to that this was the future, which it is for all communities eventually, to be the first city to test it. So we had to have several meetings in front of the Public Utility Commission with Eversource, the utility partner, and the city manager, and the IT people, and the controls company, where all of these things were addressed, because it was an issue that was particularly of consequence for both the city and for the utility. And I think everybody was satisfied. But certainly I can get you more information.
That
as a
would be
follow-up.
nice.
Are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Lieber?
I don't think so, not for me.
All right, and I don't know if, say we don't have a ton of public representation here, but if anybody who's in the audience has any questions or comments they would like to bring up, this is the time to do it. Seeing none, I will thank you for coming here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did we want to turn the light on with the?
I would like to
light
see
off?
the demonstration.
Yes.
Oh,
Maybe,
terrific.
hopefully it plays a little bit, at least at home for people, so.
So the first thing I will do before the lights go out is I will show you that. Shut this off for a moment to show you that the fixture itself is, has powder coating on it. It's made for corrosive areas. We use all marine grade stainless steel because we're in a corrosive environment in the Northeast. This product was developed for us. You can see the optics here. We have a modular system, so for the most part, every fixture that is installed will look the same out on the poles, which is not very common in the industry. You can put anywhere from a 25 watt to 120 watt fixture that looks just like this because we changed the LED module and we changed the driver. So the optics, you can see from the side, it looks like some buttery dots in there. This happens to be a 25 watt fixture, so the module itself only holds 10 LEDs. These are Cree chips, best ones in the world. We chose only the best parts here because we sleep at night knowing that we have no failures. Over 28,000 lights installed, not a single module has failed. We're not even aware of a single chip that's failed on a module. When we go up into higher wattages, you start to see more dots filled in up until a complete board of 28. It's secured, similar. The existing legacy technology has one of these. Since we had to make room for a mast arm and a different construction, you've actually got two. These are not opening up in a storm. And if for any reason, somehow, the plan was to get these things to open up, they're actually screwed, long screw hinges, 16 millimeter screws, so these will never fly. And it was a concern as part of our research that not all are constructed like that. Even the existing legacy lights, once you open that door, you can lift it up and take the door off, which creates flying materials. We separate the driver. Although heat is not as big of a problem today, in fact it's very little, a very small problem for heat management. We separate and put the driver, which is the power box. We use Meanwell drivers. It's the best electronic LED driver that's out there, and we choose to invest in Meanwell drivers because of mean time between failures is over 400,000 hours testing. You'll run the lights 86,000 hours of darkness. First 20 years these are up. So it makes us feel pretty good. It's not impossible to have a failure. The question is the equipment have replaceable parts? And the equipment does have replaceable parts. I think we've had 17 or 18 failures out of 28,000. And we know that, that these parts are obviously going to be replaceable. Surge protection device that we've seen 2 lightning strikes. Surge protection device has completely pulverized the inside, but when removed, it's taken the hit and been replaced, and these lights actually light back up when you disconnect the parallel connection of surge protection. So we know it's doing its job. We're aware of 2 lightning strikes. And then we have a quick connect device where instead of using a terminal block, we've decided to put a quick connect in, which particularly for future servicing is exceptional because nobody's doing this. We saw, just watching the operations as we started installing, particularly in the state of New Hampshire, where there aren't any fuses, that the guys were working hot. And although it's only, generally it's 120, still there's live power up there. So we started to use a quick connect because it gave them a quick opportunity to be able to cap off the power immediately. Started disconnecting from the terminal block of the old fixture. So that's pretty much it. Everything is marked, and when you take a look at your street lights today, you'll look up and see a sticker that says a 5 or a 7 or a 10. There's a 0 missing, so that's a 50 watt, a 70 watt, or a 100 watt fixture, and they'll all be marked with the actual wattage. I think that's just about it. I want to show you a little bit about the optic and what it looks like when I hold it up against the wall to give you an example of how we direct the light. So if you take a look here, you can actually see a line in the back of the fixture. The reason for that, if you take a look at the way we've designed this, everybody has to follow the same rules. It's not just who's got, what did you do for a street light? We all have our requirements. They put the light in a sphere, and you're rated with the amount of lumens in the back of the sphere from 80 to 90 degrees, 60 to 80 degrees. That's called very high, high, medium, and low glare, down to 30, 60, and 10 to 30. And then also in the front, and we have very specific amount of lumens that has to pointing in those 4 points in the front and the 4 points in the back. So you can see it's not as bright in the back. In fact, when you look at an LED street light from the sidewalk, you wonder if it's bright enough, because it's designed not to throw as much light in the back and put it forward. And you can see it's got a fairly long throw, but a short side to side, but a short throw across. So this is all through optics, and they're all measured specifically for type 2 is what we would use on most streets of your type that would be here. That's the demo.
Okay, thank you.
It's like.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Is that all here?
Sure. So with respect to this, given that there was not a sort of outpouring of public comments, I had hoped that we might take an action item today. However, as this is a substantial investment of our reserve funds, and we are missing Mr. Lawrence, I think it would be prudent, since it's not so time sensitive that it can't wait till our next meeting, to put it onto our next agenda, if that's acceptable. I mean, it wasn't on our agenda to take action on it today. I was simply open to the possibility, but I would like, if the rest of you are on board with it, to have the full council available to debate it before we commit, potentially up to $200,000 of public money to this project.
Right, of which will all be returned anyway.
Certainly, but I just in terms of the propriety of giving people their full representation on this matter. So if that's the case,
And just another small, well, it's not small, but just so that if there are folks at home watching this or people who watch it later are aware that the funding for this project would come from, what I would recommend is that the council would choose to draw those funds from the $500,000 CD that we have invested, that came from the revenues received from the capital investment with the perk. So we have contacted the bank. There is no penalty to withdraw a portion of our funds. It doesn't change our maturity date. It doesn't change our interest rate. It simply just changes the amount of interest that will accrue because the base funds are less. And then what we could do is plan that when we budget over the course of the next 3 years, even though we were to experience a savings in streetlights, continue to budget so that you can pay that CD back from those savings. And literally within, it would be a full payoff in the 3 to 4 years' time. And we would continue to save the $50,000 plus per year every year after that. So it could be a very good win-win, and we do have the ability to have the funds available to get this done. So
it sounds like a very good plan. Like I said, I'm just hoping that we'll be able to have an opportunity for Councilor Lawrence to also hear that information and weigh in on it before we.
So next
that
meeting,
decision.
we'll put this on as an action item instead of a discussion, and of course, you can still have discussion during your action piece. Perfect. That works great.
Do we have an extra copy of this information for?
I do have an extra copy right here. We're gonna scan it for the file, and we'll also make sure Peter gets it in his packet.
That moves us on to the third order of business, public comments. Members of the public may speak to the council on any item or reserve the right to speak on a specific item that is on the meeting agenda when the item is addressed. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the fourth order of business, reports from staff and committees, and I'll start with the town manager's report.
So, on June 18th, that morning, the police chief, the captain, and myself went to the State House where legislative sentiments were given to Jean Kempers for her 35 years of service to the town of Fairfield. So that was a lovely event. She did retire at the end of last month. Also that day, I was interviewed by Channel 7, ABC, Fox News 22, regarding the town's facade and marketing program. They had contacted us about events going on in the community, and we mentioned the opening of Meridian's new restaurant, and that led to a story on the facade and marketing piece. I have not seen that it is broadcasted yet, but I know that they're working on that. So that will help with our program. And also on the 19th, the Public Works Director and I attended the Kennebec Sanitary Treatment District stakeholder meeting. That meeting was held here. We made this facility available for KSTD and all of its members to meet with DEP to discuss their CSO master plan. And then also for some project updates. The check for the legal fees on the Sturdivant property has come in. Everything has been done. Their attorneys provided us with the discharge for the writ, so that has been signed. That has went out in the mail today. A couple meetings, we had discussion about street line painting and crosswalk painting. That process has started, so everybody is aware we are working on that. And also, the town's attorney has been contacted by an attorney from Maine DOT regarding the Robert Dale property. And they reached out to us to get our attorney's information. We got them in contact with Mr. Lee, and they are going to work in conjunction with the town for filing against the illegal junkyard that is on Route 201. Perfect. So it looks as though those documents should be filed within the next several weeks, and they're looking at potentially having their first court date the beginning of August. But it was nice to know that there was actually another state organization out there that was willing to help us, and it is illegal for a junkyard to be visible from a state or federal highway, and it has definitely come to their attention as well. So that's the other thing. And that's it for me.
All right. Are there any other committees that would like to report at this time? Seeing none.
There wasn't any.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure. We'll move on to the fifth order of business to waive the reading of and accept the minutes as printed or amended for meeting number 2019-11 held on June 12th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes? Any opposed? Any abstaining? One abstention. Minutes are approved. Sixth order of business, treasurer's warrants. The first one is to approve the treasurer's warrant 77 in the amount of $263,835.84.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That is approved. The second part is to approve treasurer's warrant TF2 in the amount of $6,395.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Actually, just since this is an unusual warrant for the people at home, can you tell them what it is, Michelle?
Very good question. It is a warrant. The T stands for, and the F stands for trust fund. So these are warrants that are being paid out of our trust fund money. Because that money is invested, it's actually a separate drawdown process. It's not a check that we actually create in-house. It's created, we send it off to the bank, they create the check. So what is happening here is this is a payment to Lynch Landscaping. We are using perpetual care funds, which are in a trust fund account, to pay for the services at Maplewood Cemetery, which is for the grubs, and as well as some of our poison ivy pieces.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That passes. We'll now move on to the seventh order of business to take action on the following items of business. Item number 19-55, order that the town council hereby confirms the town manager's appointment of Ira Cohen as firefighter/EMT for the remainder of a one-year term set to expire on the date of the 2020 council annual organizational meeting.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, and I will invite the chief to introduce Mr. Cohen.
Ira Cohen, who we'd like to hire to replace Jimmy Lane, who's been a long time employee. Ira has actually been with the department since 2011 as a call firefighter. He's an advanced TMT certified firefighter who has worked per diem hours and has covered shifts. He lives here in Fairfield with his wife, Victoria. They have 2 children and 1 on the way.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So after the last employee that we had appointed, we've decided to kind of make sure that anytime we hire somebody new that is subject to appointment confirmation, we try to make sure we're going to bring them here so that the council can meet them, the folks at home can see their faces, and they know who we're welcoming to our new team.
Thank you for coming to meet us today and to be introduced to the town. Does anyone have any questions or discussion on this point? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the appointment? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That passes. Congratulations. Item number 1956, order that the town council hereby authorizes the use of contingency funds as may be necessary as of June 30th, 2019, to cover expenditures that may exceed annual budgeted amounts.
Moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So do we expect anything to be going over?
Thought that's what you might ask. So currently, as of right now, the community center is our only department that is over. And it is currently over, as of today, $3,410.92. In contingency, we have $17,000, of which we have not used any the entire year. So there's plenty of contingency funds to cover that. The reason for the overage here at the community center was twofold. One, repairs that needed to happen with our furnace, as well as repairs that have recently been done with the recent water leak. We haven't actually received that bill yet. And then the other piece is our contract for cleaning services. Originally, the budget for community center was put forward as if we had still had our part-time custodian. And as we all know, before the fiscal year even started, that position ended and we were unable to fulfill it, so we contracted for cleaning services. So we knew going into the fiscal year that it was going to put this budget over, and we have budgeted accordingly for the next fiscal year that's starting in July. But as of right now, I believe that's the only department in which we will have issues.
Since you pointed to it, but I'm not sure that the cameras
Can't
can
see
pan
it.
up to it, there's an ominous black hole in the ceiling of the council chamber. It is a missing panel that last time was a very wet and moldy-looking panel.
Moldy-looking panel.
So that is a repair that will need to be completed.
The repair has been completed except for putting the panels back.
That's
so.
right.
Hopefully soon then.
Yes.
I'd rather have that than what we had the last time, looking up at it. It was kind of scary.
So is there any other discussion on this item?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That passes. Item number 1957, order that the town council hereby approves the new sewer charge rates of $63.50 base charge and $4 per 100 cubic feet effective July 1st, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. And I will say that while this is a very substantial item that I would normally try and wait until we had the full council to deal with, this does actually have to be done prior to July 1st, and so we are going to take it up today. And I would note that this is the rate that we discussed at our previous meeting in the workshop and had given a sort of consensus of council to put on today for approval. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That carries. Item number 1958, order that the town council hereby approves the sewer enterprise budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 in the amount of $609,805 for expenses and $611,726 in projected revenues.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. This is another sewer-related item that was put on for action today after our previous workshop discussion regarding the sewer enterprise. Is there any further discussion on this point? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That passes. Ordered that the town council hereby signs and approves a certificate of commitment in the amount of $113,448.20 for the fourth quarter fiscal year sewer billing for the period of April 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That passes. Item number 1960, ordered that the town council hereby approves the Crossroads TV budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 in the amount of $88,470 for expenses and $93,500 in projected revenues.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. This is another item that actually has to be done before July 1st, so we'll discuss it today, even though Councilor Lawrence is absent. Is there any discussion on this point?
No.
Just to remind anybody who's following this, this was also discussed at the workshop last council meeting and held over for action at this meeting. So there's no further discussion. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That passes. So the next item is item number 1961, order the town council hereby adopts the comprehensive updates to the town personnel policy. I would ask for a motion to table this as it is not urgent. It does actually potentially commit a substantial amount of funds in the insurance buyout piece, and it would be my personal preference that the full council be available to consider that, as it's not yet been something that we've fully debated in the previous workshop.
I'll move that we table it.
Is a motion to table?
Second.
Is a motion and a second, and I will consider this a motion to table it to our next council meeting.
Yep.
Is there any debate on the motion to table item number 1961?
No.
Seeing no debate, all in favor of tabling this item? Any opposed? Any abstaining? The item is tabled to our next meeting.
I completely forgot to vote. I say yes, we table it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 2 hours of
Let's,
sleep. I'm working on it.
So we'll count you as a vote in favor of tabling.
That's all right.
Item number 19-62, order that the town council hereby accepts David Danforth's purchase offer of $3,000 for a portion of Water Street, land map 18, lot 75, pending survey, pinning of the property, and property description update at the expense of the purchaser. I will actually ask for a motion to table, as my understanding is we have not received documentation necessary to consider this.
Oh, we have?
We haven't. We put this on the agenda with the anticipation that we would receive the paperwork, the signed piece that you had requested at your last meeting, and it has not come into the office. So we'd like you to table it to a future meeting until the paperwork actually arrives, and we're just not gonna put it on again until we receive it. We've had the discussion with them. They're going about doing what they need to do. In fact, I believe they've even started investigating talking to surveyors about doing the process. We just don't have paperwork in-house that says, yes, they will do this, as we had previously discussed, that's all.
So we'll table it.
Move that we table.
All right, there's a motion and
Second.
second. Any further debate on the issue of tabling this matter? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to table? This matter is tabled and will not come off the table until we have received the appropriate documentation.
That is correct.
Okay.
The eighth order of business is a council workshop and other business. Item number 1 is to discuss the streetlight conversion. We can certainly start that discussion today if we so desire. It will be on our next agenda as well. So, it's up to you.
On the next agenda, please.
All right, so we will move on to the next item, which is to discuss elected official concerns. This is something that is on the agenda because both Michelle and I have received numerous contacts from the community regarding not school board policy, but issues regarding Fairfield's elected members of the school board. And while we don't regulate the school board, it has been something that has been sort of continually brought to Michelle's attention and my own over the last few weeks, and I will let Michelle describe the efforts that are ongoing with that.
So I have reached out to the school board chairman, Sean Knox, and had a conversation with him today and explained about the numerous complaints that we've received. Most of them have been verbal and some have been over policy, but lately they have become more about conduct and things that have to do with the code of conduct that our elected officials sign when they're appointed, which really the town council does not have any regulatory authority over other elected officials. You have no authority over the school board whatsoever. However, you both answer to the same exact people. The school board answers to the same exact residents that the town council does. And folks in our community are looking to us for answers or solutions or what have you.
Guidance.
Regardless. So my conversation with the school board chair today was about whether or not there would be a possibility to invite the school board to a council meeting in which you would be able to have an open conversation about steps that they are taking, because they are aware of the various pieces that have come up in the last several months, about the steps that the school board is taking to try to work together better as a board, as well as work in the best interest of our community. And he was open to that idea, thought it might be a very good idea, whereas the school board members and the council could have just an open dialogue about the plans to move forward, not a session in which everyone would be invited in to attack anyone or accuse anyone of anything, but to simply have a conversation about how the district and the community goes forward. He was going to talk to some folks about that. He thought it might be a very good plan, and he will get back to me in the next several weeks. But the biggest reason why I'm here is that I have started receiving these pieces in writing, and I understand that the town council has no authority. But our residents are asking us for answers, and it's a difficult thing to answer. And to not sound as though your only option is to just, you have the recall procedure and that's it. That's all we have. Well, that's not necessarily what people want. They just want folks to serve their community in the way that they feel that they're supposed to as an elected official. So it's become very difficult to answer these questions, and I want to make sure the council is kept informed of that, because they are your constituents. It is your community. So that's where we're at. I've had conversations with Aaron over it on how do we address it? What's the best way to address it? Do we even address it? And again, it's not, we don't get into policy. We don't regulate other elected officials anywhere. But if there's a way that we can help expand the communication and get information to our residents, I think the school board is going to, our Fairfield members, not the entire school board, just our Fairfield members, would be open to that kind of conversation, and so to help get the word to the public of what they are doing.
I think it would be helpful for the public, and particularly the Fairfield community, to see their elected representatives sitting down in a collaborative and constructive way to deal with this, because there's been a lot of talk, there's been a lot of rumor and innuendo, and none of it has put any of our school board contingent, I think, in a particularly good light. And it would be great to have a forum where people can come together and work constructively, and the public can see it in real time and see what's happening.
All we can do is try. That's all we can do. I
And it
mean, we
is-
don't have any authority over them, like
It's
you said.
simply an
and-
invitation to them.
and
They're
them
not
to
required
us,
to
so
take it up.
That's all we can do is try.
Right.
And if they can see that and they come in and it's broadcasted and they can see that, you know, we're trying to help fix something, and maybe we can and maybe we can't, but we can just try anyway. That's all we can do.
Since it's being done in a way that's collaborative with the school board leadership, it shouldn't have the appearance of stepping on toes or
Right.
creating that sort of.
Right.
Well, we
Hopefully
don't,
not.
we don't have that, we don't have that right. They're
Right.
their own self-governing body.
Yeah.
We have no say-so with what they do, period.
Absolutely. This was,
And been through this many, many times over many, many past years, and there's nothing that we can do about
No.
it.
This
It is
would-
the school board, and that's their,
this would in no way be a hearing or a proceeding. It would merely be a discussion among all of the people who are elected at large by the residents
Oh, yeah.
regarding the ethics that we have all agreed to be bound by voluntarily. in our- in
it's
our
been tried
office.
before and never worked, so.
Well,
just
and I
give you
believe
a
they
heads up.
they are doing some, they are working on some things. So it gives them another venue in which to get the word out about what it is that they are doing to move the district forward. So if it works out, great. If it doesn't,
Well,
it doesn't mean that people didn't try, but we understand that, yes, it does have history and it oftentimes doesn't work out. But at least it would provide an opportunity for
People
your
to see.
constituents to
To see.
know that everybody really wants what's in the best interest of our community.
Right.
So-
Correct.
And that's where that's at.
So if it's acceptable to the council, I would like us to authorize Michelle to sort of extend that invitation.
Oh, yeah,
with
it's
respect
worth,
to
it's
our-
worth a try.
With respect to our next meeting, to try and,
Yeah.
just show the public that this is a matter of concern and that we are all trying to work together on it.
and if we do that, and there's perhaps a chance that they might decline that,
Well,
it should be
there.
noted and said so.
And it is absolutely their right to decline. to
Yeah,
do
is-
I
it is their
understand
right to
that.
decline.
I
Yep.
understand that. I mean, like I
I'll make
said,
sure everybody's aware of how it pans out.
We
and-
can't force anybody to come in and, or, you know, if they say no, then it's
Right.
no.
All right.
But good, okay, we'll continue forward with that.
That's all we really needed to discuss on that, unless anyone has any other really major and immediate concerns. And that brings us to other council business. And Councilor Bishadi, do you have any business today?
Nope, good.
Nothing
Right.
for me today.
Not at this time.
Okay, and I have no other business today. So with that, the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, July 10th at 2019 at 6:30. With that,
Motion to adjourn.
well, let's first start with our
Recess.
customary recess.
Yes.
There is a motion to recess. I will dispense with reading the agenda item. Is there a second?
Second.
If there is no objection, we will now recess.